Today on Boxing Now, Miguel Cotto turned back the clock in his win over Delvin Rodriguez. So who is next for the popular Puerto Rican star? Also, Juan Manuel Marquez goes for a title in a 5th weight class this weekend. Where does he rank among the Mexican greats? And a year after announcing he's gay, Orlando Cruz prepares to fight for his first world title. We go one-on-one with the featherweight contender. That's all coming up on Boxing Now. Welcome to Sports Illustrated's Boxing Now, coming to you from right here in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. Now, before we get into the show, let me tell you a little bit about the show. Every month, we will bring you inside our Sports Illustrated studios and tackle some of the biggest stories in boxing today. We will talk with some of the biggest guests, and we will debate the hot topics with some of the most informed analysts in the business. And we want to get you involved too. Send us questions or comments on Twitter that we'll answer at the end of the show using the hashtag BoxingNow. All right, let's get right into it. Topic number 1. Miguel Cotto is back, and he is back in a big way. Last Saturday night, Cotto demolished Delvin Rodriguez at the Amway Center in Orlando. Paired up with Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach for the first time, Cotto looked more like the fighter we saw 5 years ago when Cotto was running through the likes of Shane Mosley, Zab Judah, and Paulie Malignaggi, and nothing like the fighter who took back-to-back losses last year to Floyd Mayweather and Austin Trout. Outside of Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, there is no more appealing opponent than Miguel Cotto, and there are plenty of options out there. There's a rematch with Mayweather, which would certainly be appealing to Mayweather given the 1.5 million pay-per-view buys his fight with Cotto did last year, and the career-best 1.55 million viewers he attracted on HBO last Saturday. There's a showdown with Saul Alvarez, the junior middleweight star that would create the kind of Mexican-Puerto Rican rivalry that does big business. But the most appealing matchup to me is one division higher. At 38, Sergio Martinez is nearing the end of his career. His body is failing him, and his skills have diminished. He is still a star, still entertaining, and until somebody beats him, he is still the top dog in the middleweight division. But he is more vulnerable than any time before, which makes a matchup with Cotto extremely appealing. Martinez is a small 160-pounder. Cotto came into the ring on Saturday at 158 pounds, making weight an insignificant issue. For Martinez, it's an enormous payday. For Cotto, it's a chance to win a title in a 4th weight class. And for boxing fans, it's a can't miss. Topic number 2. When it comes to Floyd Mayweather's next opponent, the sports cash cow certainly has options. There is Danny Garcia, boxing's little engine that could, the rising junior welterweight champion who continues to defy the odds and beat everyone put in front of him. There's Marcos Maidana, assuming the Argentinian brawler can get past Adrian Broner in December. And if Mayweather wants to move up again and go for a middleweight belt, Peter Quillen could be an appealing option. A fighter who should not be an option is Amir Khan. There have been rumblings for weeks that Khan is being lined up for a shot at Mayweather. A long-planned welterweight title fight in December against Devin Alexander has not been formally agreed to, and there are people in boxing that believe wholeheartedly that Mayweather prefers Khan to be his next opponent. Why? Not because he's earned it. Khan's last 2 fights at 140 pounds were lost to Lamont Peterson and Danny Garcia, the latter by a brutal knockout. Since moving up to 147 pounds, Khan has looked unimpressive in wins over Carlos Molina and Julio Diaz. What Khan does bring is money, British money specifically, and a pile of it. Khan remains one of the most popular fighters in and around Mayweather's weight class. If Mayweather fights Khan, it's not because he wants the toughest test or because he is, as he says, determined to fight the best. It's because he sees the pile of cash that Khan can make him, and he wants to take advantage of it before Alexander makes it too late. Topic number 3. Last Saturday night, unified heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko and Alexander Povetkin stunk up a Moscow arena in an ugly, holding-filled fight that looked like it belonged to the WWE rather than on HBO. In the biggest fight of his career and with more eyeballs on him than ever before, Klitschko did what he had to do to retain his titles. He battered Povetkin's face with a jab, and he threw enough right hands to put Povetkin down 4 times in a lopsided decision win. If Klitschko was looking to win over some new fans, he didn't do it. There has always been a disconnect between fans of the heavyweight division and Vladimir and his brother, fellow title holder Vitaly. Despite an impressive knockout percentage, neither brother wages many wars in the ring, in part because of the lack of competition, in part because they ascribe to a hit-and-don't-get-hit philosophy. But that lack of style should in no way diminish the fact that both brothers win the Hall of Fame ranking among the greatest heavyweights of all time. No, calm down, Twitter sphere. I'm not guaranteeing that either Klitschko would beat Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, or George Foreman. But any suggestion that the Klitschkos are simply a product of this era is completely absurd. Vitaly Klitschko throws punches at a welterweight rate. Under Emanuel Stewart, Vladimir Klitschko developed one of the hardest jabs in boxing and follows it up with a devastating right hand that can put any heavyweight in any era to sleep. And they are boxers too. Take a look at SI.com's latest pound-for-pound list. These lists are usually reserved for fighters in smaller weight classes. But right there at number 6, you have Vladimir Klitschko, ahead of decorated amateurs like Guillermo Rigondeaux, Gennady Golovkin, and Danny Garcia. The Klitschkos can box, they can punch, and at 6'6", they're as difficult to hit as any heavyweight out there. Fantasy matchups are held only in video games, but I'll tell you right now, the Klitschkos wouldn't be pushovers for anybody. Finally, a thought on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. When it comes to star power, few fighters can match Chavez. His fight last month against Brian Vera, a journeyman only boxing diehards know much about, drew an impressive 1.42 million viewers to HBO, which makes Chavez's lack of interest in his career so difficult to understand. Originally, Chavez Vera was said to be contested at 163 pounds, but Chavez couldn't make that. Then it was moved to 168 pounds. A week before the fight, it was announced that Chavez wouldn't make that either. Chavez should be embarrassed because no matter what he says, he did not take his training seriously. Freddie Roach, Chavez's former trainer, who endured his lazy habits for years, told me that 2 weeks before the Vera fight, Chavez called him and asked him if he could work out at Roach's gym. Roach was there at 7 in the morning. Chavez never showed up. 2 days before the fight, Roach said Chavez called him and asked him to work his corner. Roach, not surprisingly, declined. Chavez will never be his father, will never be a Hall of Fame superstar. But he is young enough that if he dedicates himself to the sport, he can still be successful. Unfortunately, he shows no interest in doing that. Coming up next, Gennady Golovkin has steamrolled his way through the middleweight division. Is Curtis Stevens the man to stop him? Promoter Lou DiBella and longtime boxing columnist Tim Smith will join me to discuss. Welcome back to Boxing Now. It's time to go outside the ropes. Joining me on set is promoter and president of DiBella Entertainment, Lou DiBella, and a columnist for Ring Magazine, Tim Smith. Guys, thanks for joining me. This past weekend, we saw Miguel Cotto just wipe the mat with Delvin Rodriguez. Does this fight show you anything about Cotto? Is the old Miguel Cotto back, Lou?
I think Freddie did a great job with him. Cotto showed great body work, great intensity. He came forward like a bull, which is what Freddie wanted him to do. But you got to remember that it wasn't an elite fighter in front of him. Delvin Rodriguez lost not that long ago to Ashley Theophane on ESPN. He had a couple of fights, wins against guys that were not, I wouldn't put in the top echelon. He's a contender. I mean, Delvin was supposed to be there to be beaten. I think Cotto looked very good doing what he was supposed to do. There's a long leap from Delvin Rodriguez to Canelo Alvarez, and even a bigger leap to Sergio Martinez.
Yeah, you're never going to see the Miguel Cotto of old. He's not a world-class caliber boxer or fighter anymore. And this was a setup fight for him. It was a fight to make him look good so you could set up maybe, a big payday down the line with a Canelo Alvarez, a fight that didn't get made, that should probably gotten made before. But, he's not the same guy. He's not that guy that, we've seen in the past that just walks through guys like you
have to give him credit where it's due, though, because a lot of guys are given that setup opponent and then they don't rise to it. Right. And what he did was exactly what he was supposed to do. He not only rose to it, he wiped the floor with Delvin. Delvin was backing up from the first 5 seconds of the fight, and Cotto imposed his will and did a rating, which is hugely important, showed that his popularity is still elite.
Well, he's never going to lose the popularity, though, because there are enough people out there that remember who the old Miguel Cotto was, and they're always going to tune in hoping that he's going to recapture some of that past glory and he's going to be that guy before. He's always going to be a very popular guy, and you probably could bring Felix Trinidad into the ring now, as and he hasn't fought in like 5, 6,
but Miguel's got a lot more left than Felix Trinidad.
I think we should allow, too, for the fact that Miguel Cotto may have had just a bad night against Austin Trout. He didn't look too bad fighting Floyd Mayweather. He looked terrible fighting Austin Trout. Maybe it was just a bad night. Maybe it's still at 32. Miguel still has enough left in the tank. I certainly think he has enough left in the tank to beat Canelo Alvarez. Not a fan of Canelo, not a big Canelo guy. I think he has enough left in the tank to beat a guy like Canelo.
I think that he could give Canelo hell. I think it'd be a great fight. I think that a Sergio Martinez fight's a real fight.
Now, this is opportune that you're here because we've been talking about Cotto and Sergio Martinez. How feasible is that fight? How quickly could that fight come together?
Can't come together before March or April at the earliest, but if Miguel's looking for his Miguel Cotto date around Puerto Rican Day weekend in the tri-state area in June, can't have better timing.
Is Miguel Cotto a middleweight, though?
Well, first of all, Sergio Martinez is a middleweight. I mean, Sergio's walking around at 160-something normally, and probably walks around at maybe as light as Cotto does. I think for that fight, if it made Cotto feel better, Sergio would make 158 pounds. He said he would already. A couple of years back, I would be saying my own guy walks over Cotto, but with what I saw the other night and the fact Sergio's 38, it's a competitive fight. I mean,
your guy can barely walk, though.
Well, I mean, look, Sergio's had no question, like everyone knows, and I'm not hiding anything. Sergio's had some issues with his health, but he's still, in my mind, the best middleweight on the planet, including Gennady Golovkin, until proven otherwise. And probably, honestly, that fight probably won't happen because I I don't think Sergio's around much more than a fight or two of his own volition. I think he's pointing himself toward the end of his career. And right now is a time, particularly when you're not 100%, when you're a 38-year-old fighter, that that now is a time for him to make his money. And Miguel Cotto and Sergio Martinez is a mega fight.
You mentioned Gennady Golovkin. Last 2 years, Golovkin has been tearing his way through some of the fringe middleweight contenders in this 160-pound division. Going up against Curtis Stevens on November 2nd, Curtis has made somewhat of a name for himself, knocking guys out on NBC. What chance do you give Curtis Stevens to win that fight?
I give him a puncher's chance in the traditional sense of a puncher's chance. He has to land the perfect shot, and Golovkin has to leave himself open and exposed for the perfect shot. Now, that's a pretty tall order for a guy like Curtis Stevens, who himself gets hit quite a bit and doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. So, there could be some early fireworks, but it could explode and end quickly.
Lou, you had a fighter, Matthew Macklin, just lose to Gennady Golovkin. What makes him so dangerous in the ring? What makes him so successful?
It's that he can punch like a mule from every direction, every type of punch, jab, body shot, hook, overhand right. He can do everything. And it's his movement. I haven't seen a guy cut off a ring like that, and I don't know. I mean, he's technically so perfect, so sound. Look, I used to promote Curtis. I have like a warm spot for Curtis. I mean, and when I was promoting him, they were known as the chin checkers, he and J. Don Codrington, right. But he was a chin checker until he got his chin checked. and the thing about Curtis is he could be knocked out. He's been knocked out. And he has that puncher's chance. He punches like a mule. He also gets hit. And the other thing about Curtis is he doesn't have that same ring generalship, that same movement as Golovkin. So I agree with Tim. Golovkin has to make a mistake, and Curtis has to, that's a confluence of, Golovkin making a mistake, Curtis throwing a bomb that lands.
And I got to tell you, Golovkin, when he fought Macklin, he stalked him like a jungle cat. I mean, it was just, it was scary to watch the way that he stalked Macklin throughout that fight. And he just pounced on him. I mean, and it was just really, it was truly scary. It was almost like the guy's got the mentality of an assassin when he's in the ring.
If you're going to make any criticism, it's he leaves himself a little bit open to be hit.
A little bit.
Now that being said, he's able to because he has so much of that other stuff going for him that he can get away with it. Now, the only reason that people are fascinated by the fight is because Curtis is a big puncher. I want to see also what Curtis looks like when the opening bell dings. Yeah. Because honestly, recent guys that have gotten in a ring with Golovkin have had that like sort of fear in their eyes, like that I'm a deer in the headlights look. And maybe there's a greater chance of something unforeseeable happening if Curtis doesn't have that look.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Juan Manuel Marquez looks to become the first Mexican fighter to win titles in 5 weight classes. Guys, the history of Mexican boxing is rich. If Juan Manuel Marquez beats Tim Bradley, where does that rank him among the great Mexicans?
Probably 3 or 4. I mean, my top Mexican fighters are Carlos Zarate. I mean, you can't argue with a guy who had 20 knockouts and then had 20 other knockouts. I mean, this guy was a fantastic fighter. And then, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. And, and maybe if he wins the title, you place him 3rd. But, I think that, there have been so many great Mexican fighters. And I think people sort of forget about the past with Mexican fighters. They sort of look at the here and now. Canelo takes off. Canelo really hasn't done anything, but it's the here and now that people concentrate on. But the history of Mexican boxers is just unbelievably rich.
Mm-hmm. Look, he's one of my favorites. I mean, I signed him to his first contract when I was at HBO. I scouted him. I thought he was awesome when he was a teenager. I mean, he's a tremendous fighter. I mean, great fighter. He also, Pacquiao is going to be going people's history books as an all-time great. The guy had Pacquiao's number. Iced him cold in his last fight. I mean, iced him a la Roy Jones on his back. I mean, it was devastating knockout.
Would your opinion of Marquez be different if he had been officially given credit for some of the wins? I mean, we all thought he won the 3rd fight.
Won, yeah.
The first fight was
I
razor thin.
I thought that was the first fight that was legitimately a draw, and I thought Marquez won the other fights.
I feel a little bit differently than I appreciate Zarate from a historical perspective. I didn't get a chance to see him that often. But I mean, he certainly belongs in the top 3. Now, the Mexican people will always view Chavez Sr. Chavez Sr. is the Mexican icon.
And in some ways, Salvador Sanchez, too, will promise unfulfilled.
Well, I mean, promise unfulfilled. Salvador Sanchez's talent was unbelievable, but he died so young that how do you make a judgment? But I mean, Salvador Sanchez, I mean, the fight with Azuma Nelson at the Garden was classic, and he was just a great fighter.
A guy that is not quite there yet, Canelo Alvarez, we mentioned before. You know, it was supposed to be a win-win for him fighting Floyd Mayweather. He wins the fight, he beat Floyd Mayweather, he loses the fight, he gets the exposure of fighting Floyd Mayweather. Do you still feel that way after the fact? Did he hurt his brand at all the way he fought against Mayweather?
I don't think so. I think, there's no disgrace in losing to Floyd Mayweather. And you look at the guys that have fought and lost to Floyd Mayweather in the past and what they did after. I mean, you have Diego Corrales. Yeah, he lost to Mayweather, but the guy bounced back to have some great fights. I mean, he had a great fight with, Castillo, with Jose Luis Castillo. You look at other guys that have fought Floyd and lost. Zab Judah is still in the title picture. There's no disgrace in losing. Plus, the guy's only 23 years old. There's a tremendous upside, and he's still learning how to be the complete package. So I don't think it hurt him, and I don't think there's any disgrace to losing to the best fighter of this generation.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, I don't think it hurt his brand at all, and he has 10 million reasons plus to be a very happy guy. The other thing is he didn't wind up on his back. Now, I mean, did I think it was a great performance? No. But and the other thing, if there's any danger, first of all, it's like a double-sided coin. On one hand, tremendous potential. He's still only 23 years old. He's got unbelievable ability and a chance to be something special with time. The other flip side of it is Mayweather light, a guy that may not be as great as Floyd can take that sort of playbook that Floyd laid out and probably confuse the hell out of Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Floyd laid out the map on how you beat Canelo Alvarez, and he beat him every second of every round.
I didn't like how Canelo fought that fight. I thought he went in there and tried to outbox the best boxer of this generation. I think one thing Mexican fans love is a fighter that goes out on a shield. You mentioned Chavez. Chavez almost always went out on a shield.
How do you go and get a shield?
You go in there and you do what Cotto tried to do. Cotto went in there and made the fight physical. Where it was the closest Mayweather fight Mayweather's been in a while.
You can't do it to somebody that's not letting you do it to them. He couldn't hit him in the rear end.
But go in there, and if you get knocked out, you get knocked out. At least you're going out there and going down swinging.
But he wasn't even going to get close enough to be able to
But he didn't try, Tim. He didn't try to.
He tried. He
could have thrown caution to the wind, but look at his face at the end of the fight.
I think he tried every single thing that he could. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Floyd Mayweather and rewatch the fight. And you could see the confusion, and Floyd even talked about the confusion in Canelo Alvarez. He said you could see that the guy was thinking. He said, you see him thinking. You see him trying to figure out what he can do next. And he said, I shut down all the options. There was nothing he could do. Even if he wanted to try to rush him or crowd him or rough him up or anything, Floyd wasn't going to give him that opportunity to get close enough to doing any of those things.
I don't care what those judges saw. I don't care.
Wait a second, C.J. Ross, she was right on top of that.
C.J. Ross should never judge again. But I don't care what they saw because at most, Canelo won a round. At most.
At most.
I gave him a mercy round, but he was so horrible. I took it back.
But here's where I think that it was a man against a boy, and he got a lot of money to fight that fight. They capitalized on his unblemished record and his popularity. He lived to fight again. Didn't get hurt. Didn't get knocked out. He's only 23 years old. Nah, it was a win-win.
All right, well, now we're going to be talking about Floyd Mayweather's next opponent. You hear names like Danny Garcia, you hear names like Amir Khan. I'm going to reach for that low-hanging fruit here for a second and say, if they somehow got together and made Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao for next May, would you still care?
Mayweather knock him out.
I'd care.
Would I care? I'd want to watch it.
Would you want to watch still?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want to watch it.
I'd want to watch it more than Danny Garcia or Amir Khan.
I would want to watch it. I would want to, and I'm going to tell you why I would want to watch it.
It's not unfinished business anymore.
I would watch it, and I would watch it for one simple reason. I think that the fight that you're talking about, that Canelo tried to fight, I think Manny Pacquiao will try to fight that fight.
Exactly, I agree with that.
And I think there's so much, you talk about, unfinished business or whatever. Pacquiao has built up such an internal animosity toward, and he won't say it publicly, but he's built up so much internal animosity toward Mayweather. He would take that into the ring, and that would fuel him. And I think he would walk through the gates of hell to try to win that fight.
I don't want to be a smart aleck or anything, but I don't think there was ever a moment in time that Manny Pacquiao had a chance to beat Floyd Mayweather.
No, he's not going to beat him.
Even before the losses to it was never going to be Floyd Mayweather.
But the fact this fight didn't happen in 2009 or 2010,
if
it happened today, it would piss me off. It would get me so angry. It would get me so angry that this fight. Because we all know.
I've been in the sport too long to get that easily pissed off.
I'm just saying, we all know. Look, we all know.
What other sport shoots itself in the foot more than boxing?
None. But we
Okay.
all know that even if you thought Pacquiao was going to lose that fight in 2010, at least the interest would have been there. It would have been 3 million pay-per-view buys, and we all would have been giddy about that fight. And it probably no, it won't be. Not after Pacquiao got knocked out. It would have been a big, high-profile fight with some unknown expectations to it. This fight, we all know Floyd would box circles around him or knock him out like
He was going to
Pacquiao
knock him
was
out and box
Maybe,
circles around him in
Anyway,
2009.
look,
You
I
sure
still-
about that,
Hey,
though?
come
Yes,
on.
I'm
Would you rather
positive
see Amir
about that.
Khan? Would you rather see Danny Garcia? Not me.
No, I don't want to see anyone. Excellent work, guys. Thanks for coming by. When we come back, Orlando Cruz made history when he became the first active fighter to announce he was gay. This weekend, he hopes to make a little more history. We go one-on-one with Cruz when we come back. All right, Orlando, it has been almost 1 year since you announced that you were gay. What has this last year been like for you?
I am very happy, comfortable, I am very free. I think that, 95% is positive, So, especially Puerto Rico and my Latin people, support, we are all amazing,
When you were thinking about making the announcement, what made you most nervous?
Sometimes thinking that my opponent said, no, I'm not fighting with him, he's gay. No, you know what I mean? So, but now I am happy, I am control, so it's great.
You mentioned that 95% has been positive. That leaves that 5% of the negative. Where have you seen most of the negative reaction? Has it been on stuff like Twitter? Has it been on from fans and crowds?
Both. Twitter and Facebook. Puerto Rico is a young, is broad, stereotypic, So the people in Puerto Rico is support, but other people no support. 5% no support. So he says, hello, I am professional boxer. I am man. I am when go to the ring, it's a Puerto Rico, no other country. But it's it's okay. I don't care. I am happy. My family support me. My partner support me. Everything my team support me. So I am very happy.
You've fought twice since making this announcement. How has the boxing community treated you?
Good. Especially Mexicans. So, oh my God, especially the Twitter, Facebook. Orlando, good job. Orlando, focus. Orlando, concentration. Orlando, you go to the victory. Wow, Mexico.
Who are some of the guys that have supported you on Twitter or on Facebook? Any boxing names?
Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, Miguel Cotto, Ivan Calderon, and Maravilla Martinez.
In boxing, big names and high-profile guys get big fights. And here you are, right about ready to have your first world title fight. What do you think of that criticism that you did this for publicity?
Wow, it's my first time world champion. I am very excited. It's my moment. It's my time. It's my last opportunity. I am 32 years old. But my concentration is that it's good. My team support. My team is hard work every day. It's a long time waiting for my opportunity. Long time waiting for my time. I am waiting for 12 years old, waiting. And when I moved to New York, and I lived before Jersey City, and my doctor, psychology, so it helped, for thought, decision, and the control, So it's helped every day, But when I'm ready, October 3rd, stop.
What will that mean for the gay community to have you as a world title holder?
It's good question. I am represent my community, LGBT, and I want not anymore Boston, so that the people remember Orlando Cruz is a champion. Orlando Cruz is a good boxer. Orlando Cruz is gay, but he's a lot of boxer. He's a good boxer.
Welcome back to Sports Illustrated's Boxing Now, where we end every show by taking some of your questions on Twitter. And a reminder, you can send us your questions using the hashtag BoxingNow. Question number 1 comes from Ryan. Besides Mayweather and Pacquiao, what is the best fight that can't be made because of the top-ranked Golden Boy feud? Well, Ryan, there are plenty of good fights out there that can't be made because of this battle. I'm looking at the 140-pound division, though. Danny Garcia has been looking for opponents there. He says he's going to move up to 147 pounds because he's finished all his business at 140 pounds. But there are two fighters at 140 that I think would make for great fights with Danny. One is Brandon Rios, who's fighting Manny Pacquiao. The other is Mike Alvarado, who's fighting Ruslan Provodnikov on October 19th. Put either one of those guys in with Danny Garcia, and that's going to make for a great fight. Second question comes from Louis. Does Todd Dubuff share the same hate for Golden Boy as Bob Arum? Will the war end when he takes control of Top Rank? Well, I'll tell you right now, Louis, I hope that Bob Arum never leaves. He is great for boxing. He's a great quote. He makes for a great story. But it is true that Todd Dubuff is a little more level-headed than him, and that maybe someday, way into the future, Todd can heal the rift between Top Rank and Golden Boy. All right, that's all for today from our New York City studios. Thanks for joining us on Boxing Now. For more coverage, as always, head to si.com/boxing, and we'll see you next month.